The second thing that someone made a lot of comments on, I happened to see it today, on my thing about discerning God's will. And again, when people are nasty, I just hide them from the channel because I'm tired of dealing with nastiness. It's one of these, something I saw on the internet that I just kept for myself because I was like, that's just so true. And I just don't want to deal with this stuff as I've talked about before. And it's just something here. It says, I'm so tired of people running around with a mouthful of scripture and a heart full of hate. I'm so tired of people running around with a heart full of scripture. A mouthful of scripture and a heart full of hate. And that's what this guy was coming at. He was on my case because when I talked about, again, our guy Vince has been putting out little parts of what I say here and putting it out. And so one of the things was, how do you know God's will? And I talked about wanting to living God's will. And he said, oh, that's just a bunch of la-la stuff. And that's new stuff. That's charismatic. That all goes to the feeling and how you feel about something. And people of God, let me be clear. I'm the last one to talk about how you feel. Peace isn't a feeling. When Jesus sat there and he said, your will be done to the Father in the agony in the garden, he wasn't all peaceful, a feeling of peace, but he had that surrender of peace when he said yes to the Father's will. And he says, this is all new stuff. Discernment of spirits comes from St. Ignatius of Loyola, and he was the first one to really focus on, how to discern God's will and what's of the good spirit, what's of the evil spirit. And so when people are just nasty, all I'm trying to do is help you to know God's will, to live God's will. And I think that a lot of people react to things, but once you come to truly know the love of God, now you have a different heart. And even if you disagree with somebody, you can disagree with them in a way that isn't hateful, that isn't like, the last, like 4 things, and the last one was, oh, Father, I don't have peace about what you said. Okay, aren't you good? God bless you for being such a holy man and different things. So please, let's stop doing that kind of stuff. We can disagree, but we can disagree respectfully with one another. And again, if people aren't willing to respectfully disagree or say, Father, how about this, or questions, then I'm just not going to be bothered with people and having them stay on my stuff, because all they do is bring more division. And again, division is not from God. It just isn't, especially in his church. Now, there'll be some division between us and the world, but in the church, that shouldn't be. We should respectfully deal with one another. And in fact, isn't it interesting that St. Paul says we should think respectfully in Philippians chapter 2, of other people is more important than us. And so that's all the way. And sometimes I don't do that myself either, as we all know. But it got to be something that we're working towards and hoping to do more and more of, okay? So let's go to the